Going on, it's Jimmy Friday, and we back at it. We on part 3 of Courage. Rise Again is the title. So I want to ask you a question. How do you recover from your mistakes or errors? Whether they big or small mistakes, how do you recover from those? I was thinking, about a pie diagram. If we had a pie diagram drawn up into 4 slices, and labeled, how much of a percent would each slice take up? You have slice 1 is to beat yourself up. Slice 2 is to blame others for the position you're in. Slice 3 is to give up. And slice 4 is to learn from your errors or mistakes and re-strategize. And so I drew my own up, and so this is how mine's look. One slice I have, where I done gave up on certain situations, certain things, just not having an understanding of the issues that I was dealing with, so I gave up. Then I have another slice where I blamed others. I went through a period of time where I would blame others for my mistakes, whether it was the raising I had, just the people in my life. I had that point of time where I would blame people or blame things on other individuals other than myself. After I learned, we're all responsible for our own actions. Then my third slice I have where I done beat myself up. They say we are our worst critics. And so at times I've made some mistakes, I blame myself for those. And I beat myself up for it, and carry that burden, just not releasing it, and learning, okay, this is a lesson and moving on, and so, but then I have a majority of my slice, my pie, is where I've learned and I progressed, I re-strategized and learned about the errors and the mistakes that I've made, and I've pressed on. So, like I said, this is mine's. So you could probably draw your own up, and see how it is, maybe it'll help you, strategize, and reposition yourself here in life. One thing, about having courage, is you find the strength to press on regardless of the circumstance. That's one thing about having courage, and you can ask yourself, do you have courage? You can go back and analyze past situations and see if you had courage at the time. And you never know, you might be stronger than what you are. To fail is to be unsuccessful at achieving a goal. It's just unsuccessful. It's either, if you failed, that means you didn't try hard enough or you gave up. That's the only way you can fail, is by not trying hard enough. And it takes courage to keep pursuing the goal after a failed attempt or shortcoming. And a shortcoming is a fault or a failure to meet a certain standard in a person's character, a plan, or a system. That's all shortcomings is. And so the difference between a failure and a winner is that a winner is just a person that never gave up, regardless of what it was. They found a way to keep going. A winner never gives up. And a quitter never wins. So remember that, I like to think about all of the inventors throughout the world, that had a vision to create something, but they did not succeed on the first attempt or the 10th, but they never gave up. They re-strategized and tried again. And like I said, it take a lot of courage to keep pursuing a goal after you failed. You have so much, of yourself that where you beat yourself up like, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it, but you got to press on through it. So, I want to take time and reflect on an inventor that kind of motivated me, as I was reading one day. His name is Frederick McKinley Jones. So as I was reading, his inventions revolutionized the refrigeration units used on trucks, trains, and airplanes so that food and medicine could be transported safely all over the world. Frederick had he built Halleck's Hollis, Minnesota first radio station transmitter and a soundtrack system for motion pictures. During World War II, it was Jones' original designs that made it possible for blood and medicine to be kept fresh for victims of warfare. Jones was not only a creative genius, but a lifesaver of American servicemen. Here's a little clip I printed out so y'all can see it. His story really motivated me. He was the first African American to receive the National Medal of Technology. He was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. By the time Frederick finished his race in life, he patented many inventions. Some were stolen, but others he was able to patent. So like about 61 of them he was able to patent. Like he didn't give up. That's one thing that I had learned, I picked up on, for him to invent so many things and to have so many stolen from him, he never gave up. After his first attempt, he didn't give up. And I'm sure he didn't succeed on the first attempt either. I'm sure it was plenty times he had to retry, re-strategize or something. For him to be successful as a person of color during that time show how much courage it took for him to keep going and keep progressing. Like I say in the word, the righteous fall many times, but we rise again. And this scripture could be covered, it covers a wide range of shortcomings. It covers a wide range of shortcomings. You can make the choice to let your mistakes keep you down, or will you rise up after them? You are blessed with free will to make the choice. You can choose to be overthrown by your mistakes and your shortcomings like a low-minded person, or you can rise again and keep going like a high-minded person. And so, the reason why I thought about, Frederick McKinley Jones was just looking at like how much he helped the world, by not giving up, by having courage to keep pressing through his failures, through the rejection of his skin color, just lack of education. I'm going to share a link, that kind of gives a short summary over his life and like a lot of the inventions he did, because the video will help more than I can tell about him, but just the courage he had to keep pressing through whatever it was, so the scripture says, the righteous fall many times, but we rise again. And so, when you're blessed by the Creator, your shortcomings is not going to hold you back, but they will motivate you and thrust you forward if you are willing to learn and take ownership. Like I say, the Creator, he gives grace to the humble, and the pride he humbles. So, don't be so prideful to where you can't learn from your mistakes, because pride will make you give up. And you don't want to do that. We setting good examples. We showing the world how to keep going. We throw the pressures on our back and we keep pressing forward. So that's all I got to say. Just have courage to keep going. When you make a mistake, rise again, because you got the strength to do it. Life is a forward march. You got to press forward. Forget what's behind you and press forward to the future. So that's all I have to say. Y'all stay blessed, stay prayed up, because it's a crazy world out here, and we just got to keep standing. We got to keep pressing on, have courage to keep going. Regardless of the mistakes, keep trying, because you never know whose life you can save, what person's mind you could spark in the future, and they could be someone to help change the world. So y'all stay blessed, stay prayed up, keep your head up, and that's all I have to say. Have the courage to make your mistakes and keep going.